In a quiet villa far from the buzz of tourists, a party was reaching its peak. Inside, there were models, music, flowing champagne, and secrets. But outside, it's all silence and shadows. Then a phone buzzed. It had one message. The message came from an unknown number. No reply needed. It was just 7 words. "It's snowing tonight. Be careful who you trust." At first glance, it looked like just another party update. But for Raphael, a man who had everything, that message was the beginning of the end, an end that no one in their wildest dreams can think of. It would bring down his entire empire. It would expose an illegal criminal network worth over $100 million. And it all happened in the late 2000s, a time when Bali was silently becoming a new axis in the global drug map. But what was this network? How did it become so big? This video will answer all your questions. Before getting into the network, let's take a moment to understand a bit about Bali, often referred to as a paradise.
Dark side.
Bali has a face that tourists love to see. Beaches, temples, and cheap vacations. But just beneath the surface, there's another world. One made of fast money, fake smiles, and dirty deals. A place where paradise is for sale, and loyalty is always negotiable. For years, this island was a playground not just for travelers, but for traffickers. Its location made it perfect. It's close to South Asia, a short hop to Australia, and packed with foreign faces that made the perfect camouflage. Add corruption, weak borders, and overloaded customs, and Bali became a safe zone. Locals knew what snowing in Bali really meant. It wasn't about the weather, it was actually a code that depicted something unbelievable. Code for something pure. White, expensive, it was cocaine. Flowing freely, moving silently. But the traffickers weren't hiding in jungles or bunkers. They were in luxury villas, sipping champagne at beach clubs, playing tennis at private resorts. The line between party and crime blurred until it disappeared, and among them was Raphael. To everyone around him, Raphael looked like just another surfer. Brazilian, tan, charming, carefree. But Raphael wasn't there to catch waves. He was there to build something bigger. He came to Bali chasing freedom, the sea, the sun, and the scene. He stayed because he found something even better. A way to make money, fast, clean, invisible. At first, it was simple, selling sarongs, a little weed. Then, through whispers and handshakes, he was offered more. The pitch came on a beach. An older dealer leaned in and said, "Want to make some real money?" Raphael walked away that day, but the idea didn't. He watched others fly to Amsterdam, come back with kilos stitched into surfboard bags, and leave with cash. He saw them surf in the morning and sell at sunset. They weren't criminals, they were kings, or at least they were living like kings. And soon, Raphael would join them. He started small, a courier, a seller, but he was sharp. He was watching everything, how deals were made, how the packaging worked, how the good stuff moved from South America to Asia without ever touching suspicion. And then he took control. He stopped carrying and started importing. He met Peruvians, bought in bulk and paid $1,000 a kilo. Then it was sold for 40 times that amount, sometimes more. And the quality, it was unmatched. Locals called it asa de mosca. It means the wing of the fly. It's the purest form, shiny, almost silver. Raphael's business wasn't in the shadows, it was everywhere. He wore an Armani shirt open to his chest. A 1-kilo gold chain hung around his neck. A diamond sparkled from his tooth. He drove a car that started with the push of a button. And this was quite a big deal that time. And he had a mansion with an ocean view from his pillow. He wasn't hiding, he was living lavishly. Models sent him notes in restaurants. Tourists offered him favors for just a taste. Other dealers waited in line to partner with him. Some just wanted to be near him. But why? Well, he had horses, what they call couriers, and a system. The surfboard bags were stitched with precision. No loose threads, no smell. But that wasn't all. They also used to rehearse handovers in villas before sending anyone to the airport. He told a courier to just act normal. Don't smile too much, don't sweat. The bag is perfect, and he wasn't lying. That courier made it to Sydney. And Raphael, he flew in the next day, picked up $500,000 in a white bedsheet, and flew back. He made it look easy, he made it look beautiful. But Raphael wasn't doing it all alone. While we don't know the name of every player in the inner circle, we know there were others who operated in the shadows. And one of them was Andre, a fellow Brazilian fugitive, sharp, educated, and always watching his back. He soon became one of Raphael's closest allies. He was the guy you called when you needed a deal closed in silence. He moved like smoke, using burner phones, aliases, even disguises. And then there was Mario, low profile but ruthless. He was known for organizing shipments and making connections with gangs, bribes, and logistics. Together, the three formed a quiet triangle. Raphael at the front, Andre in the field, Mario in the shadows. But empires like his don't stay hidden forever. And trust? It's always the first thing to break. Because somewhere, someone was watching all three of them. And then came that suspicious message. For Raphael, nights in Bali blurred together. One party led into the next. Girls, music, shimmering powder on mirrors. It felt endless, like nothing could touch him. But in this world, everything runs on trust. Trust in the couriers, trust in the suppliers, trust that no one talks. And all it takes is one message to break that chain. And it came during a party, one of those wild nights. Luxury villa, models with too much makeup. Two men whispering about a new run. One of them pulls out his phone, types a message and hits send. He didn't know someone else was watching that number. He didn't know law enforcement was already listening. And just like that, a digital thread was pulled. The number was already flagged by international investigators. They had been tracking it for weeks, maybe months, quietly, patiently. And that night, that message confirmed everything. The operation, the timing, the people involved. It was short, casual, and sloppy, but it mentioned two key names and a location. That was enough. At first, nothing happened. Raphael didn't see or notice anything. No knock on the door, no flashing lights. But things were already in motion. That single text led officers to a courier. The courier led to a delivery house. The safe house had notes, backup phones, and a list of trusted contacts. One of those names was Raphael's. A small crack, and the entire map started to form. Authorities had already been suspicious. They had seen the lifestyle. They had heard whispers about lemon juice and the snow club, but now they had proof. And more than that, they had a reason to dig deeper. Meanwhile, the task force grew quietly. Interpol, Europol, Australian Federal Police stepped in. They built profiles, mapped flights, tracked accounts, bought burner phones just to follow fake ones. And what they discovered was something unbelievable. They found out that the operation wasn't just Raphael. It was a web, stretching from Peru to Amsterdam, Bali to Sydney. Everyone had a role. Packers, runners, bag designers, even the people who made fake receipts for the surf bags. They weren't moving in the shadows anymore. They were operating in plain sight. They were renting villas through travel agencies, paying off customs officers in Bali, bribing local gangs for protection. Some even had side businesses, beach clubs, gyms, and cafes. The money was everywhere, washing clean like the Bali tide. But now, the tide was turning. That one message that was sent in confidence and received in silence. It gave authorities exactly what they needed. And while Raphael kept throwing parties, models still lined up at his door. A digital file with his name on it kept growing. Every deal, every surfboard bag, and every contact now had a pin on a digital map. And soon, the map would lead to doors, and those doors would come crashing down. But one day, the rain came down softly. It wasn't enough to flood the streets, but it was enough to blur the view from Raphael's villa. Raphael was still in bed, dreaming of the night before. Another party, another line, another round of fake smiles and real money. But outside, things were different. The streets weren't quiet. They were being watched. For weeks now, Indonesian narcotics officers had been tracking every move, every courier, every runner. Every fake tourist flying in with surfboards too heavy for just wax and trunks. It had started with whispers, then a message, then a name, then another. Each tip was small, but the narcotics division began to piece them together, all quietly, and that's how the operation started. Raphael was at the center of this operation. Authorities knew they couldn't move too early, but Raphael was smart. paranoid even. He changed phones often, he paid people well, he kept things verbals, and he rarely left a paper trail. But his ego, that was harder to hide. He moved like royalty through Bali, flashing cars, hosting rooftop parties. Even the police had heard of him. But now they had more than just a name, they had a file. And in that file was everything. Phone numbers, aliases, notes from former dealers. Each piece added pressure to the boiling pot. His whole circle was under watch. Friends, girlfriends, business partners. Some of them had already been picked up, quietly, without headlines. One courier flipped, and then another. And inside a nondescript police station in Denpasar, a whiteboard was filling up. Photos, flight logs, numbers written in red marker. The operation was expanding. Interpol sent support. And so did the Australian Federal Police. They had seen the damage Raphael's empire caused in overdose reports, intercepted packages, and encrypted texts across Asia Pacific. It wasn't about catching users, it was about smashing the network. And Raphael was the head. Then the night came. No warning, no tip-off, just a silent check-in at Rio de Janeiro airport. Raphael thought he was safe. He had ditched his laptop, carried only hand luggage, and boarded the plane. But just minutes before takeoff, footsteps echoed in the aisle. Federal police walked straight to his seat. Raphael, he didn't argue, he didn't run, he just nodded. And right there, on the plane, Raphael's escape plan had just failed. And just like that, after years of deals, millions made, and a life built on risk and speed, Raphael's empire collapsed. All the little things he thought didn't matter suddenly mattered. Back at headquarters, officers cracked open the phones. They didn't need Raphael to talk because this time, it's the data that would talk. And it did. Everything they found. Names, transactions, new courier routes, and even payments made to customs officers. Each device was a confession. The operation had worked, and Raphael's kingdom began to collapse. Word spread fast. Dealers panicked. Some tried to run, others burned everything they had. A few turned themselves in. His empire, built over years, collapsed in days. It didn't matter that he never touched the product. It didn't matter how many villas he rented or how many bribes he paid. The operation was global. And now the eyes of the world were on Bali. Raphael was thrown into Karabokan prison. But the case didn't stop with him. The operation kept going with interrogations and confessions, loose threads pulled until the whole fabric was torn apart. What began with a single message ended with one of the biggest drug crackdowns in Bali's history. The island looked the same. Bali's beaches were still golden. The parties were still loud. But something had shifted beneath the surface. The empire was breaking. Raphael was no longer untouchable. The man who once walked through Seminyak like a king now sat in silence behind bars. The news of his arrest spread fast. Not in the papers, but in whispers. On burner phones and coded texts. In trembling voices at villas and warungs. Some didn't believe it. Rafa? No way. Others knew it was coming, because his downfall didn't come with a gunfight. It came with a breadcrumb that led authorities right to his door. And that's why Bali's shadows had been disturbed. And when one man falls, others scramble to hide. The surfers who moved more than boards. The girls who acted as silent couriers. The airport officials who used to look the other way. Everyone was on edge. Some flushed their stash. Others disappeared overnight. A few even tried to fly out, but the names were already listed. And the law was already closing in. The empire Raphael built was about people, connections, loyalty, and fear. But loyalty fades when prison looms, and fear shifts sides when the law knocks louder. Some of Raphael's closest allies started talking, not in court, but in quiet closed rooms. They did it to shave years off their own sentences, to save themselves. Each name they gave, each route they revealed, chipped away at what once felt invincible, what once looked like confidence. Now looked foolish. Raphael's villa had cameras, his phones were tracked, and his lifestyle, it was documented in photos, screenshots, and bank transfers. It wasn't just the drugs they cared about, it was what he represented. The arrogance, the glamour, and of course the illusion that you could live like a king in Bali forever and never pay the price. But for Bali's underworld, Raphael's fall was a message, loud, clear, and final. Inside Carabocan prison, Raphael was no longer the charming kingpin. He was inmate number 21,457. The guards knew who he was, and so did the other prisoners. Some feared him, some hated him, others wanted answers. But Raphael stayed mostly quiet. His lawyers worked through the night, trying to delay the case, trying to bargain, but there was too much evidence on the table, too many intercepted messages, too many flipped couriers, and too much cash. And the Indonesian legal system, it doesn't play, especially not with foreigners smuggling powder through customs. Outside the prison, the police weren't done. Their eyes turned to Andre and Mario, two other major players in the same game. Both had worked with Raphael. Both had lived like kings in Bali, and both were now on borrowed time. Andre tried to hide. He knew the signs, he changed SIMs, left his villa, tried to live low profile, but paranoia doesn't sleep. He was always watching the door, jumping in the shadows. He knew Raphael wouldn't stay silent forever. And he was right. One name leads to another. That's how networks fall. Soon, Andre too would be caught. His lifestyle, his contacts, his money trails, all exposed. And Mario, he was no different, once proud, now just another name on the arrest board. Their downfall wasn't cinematic. It wasn't flashy, it was cold, systematic, inevitable, and for the people of Bali, it was a wake-up call. The island had become a global trafficking hub. Not because it wanted to, but because it was perfectly placed between suppliers in South America and buyers in Australia and beyond. But with this operation, the illusion shattered. Authorities didn't stop. They changed the rules. New surveillance at Ngurah Rai Airport, stricter checks on surf gear, crackdowns on rental villas, sudden inspections, IDs scanned, flights flagged. Bali was changing, and the underworld felt it. The remaining bosses went quiet. No more flashy watches. No more Lambos on Instagram. Some left entirely and went to Thailand, Colombia, Dubai. Others stayed in the shadows, waiting, because the rumors won't stop. There are whispers of a backup network. New SIMs, new apps, new routes. Some people say a younger crew is watching. Learning. Waiting for the heat to die down. Maybe one day, the snow will fall again in Bali. It's easy to say Raphael was the problem. But the truth is, the system let him in. And as long as there's money in snow, someone else will take his place. But the real question is, was Raphael really the last kingpin? Or just the one who got caught first? How deep did the rabbit hole go? How many names never made it to the whiteboard? What do you think? Is this the end of an era? Or just the calm before another storm? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.